Don't come to the party tonight. He doesn't like when you're around," she said about her male best friend while checking her reflection. I said, "Okay," and stayed home. Packed all my things instead. She came home at 2 a.m. to an empty apartment. Called panicking. I said, "Don't worry. Now he never has to see me again," and hung up. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I've always been a foundation guy. Some people are the fireworks, bright, loud, and gone in a flash, but I'm the guy who makes sure the house doesn't fall down. For 4 years, I was the foundation for Maya. When she wanted to quit her corporate job to find her creative voice in social media marketing, I was the one who covered the rent on our downtown 2-bedroom. When her car broke down, I gave her mine and started taking the bus to my job as a senior systems analyst. I didn't mind. I thought that's what a partnership was. I thought if I built a stable enough world, she'd feel safe enough to thrive in it. But there's a problem with being the foundation. People eventually forget you're there, and then they start complaining that you're too stiff and immobile. That's where Julian came in. Julian was everything I wasn't. He was a lifestyle photographer, which was code for unemployed with a nice camera and a trust fund. He was spontaneous. He wore silk shirts unbuttoned to the navel, and he had a vibe that Maya suddenly found intoxicating. He became her male best friend almost overnight. At first, I tried to be the cool boyfriend. I invited him to dinner. I tried to talk to him about his work. But Julian had this subtle, sharpened way of making me feel like an outsider in my own home. I remember one Tuesday night, a night I had spent 10 hours looking at server migrations. I came home to find them both in the kitchen, drinking a bottle of wine I had been saving for our anniversary. "Oh, Mark, you're home," Maya said, not even looking up from her phone. "Julian was just telling me about this underground gallery opening. We're thinking of going." "On a Tuesday?" I asked, setting my briefcase down. "Don't you have that client meeting tomorrow morning, Maya?" Julian let out a short, airy laugh. He swirled the wine in his glass, my glass, and looked at me with a pitying smile. "See, that's the thing, Mark. You're always thinking about the meeting or the schedule. Maya is an artist. Artists need to follow the energy. You can't put a deadline on inspiration." Maya nodded, looking at him like he had just recited scripture. "He's right, Mark. You're so rigid. Sometimes I feel like I can't even breathe around here because you're always worrying about the logistics of everything." "I'm worrying about the logistics because the logistics are why this apartment has electricity, Maya," I said, trying to keep my voice level. She rolled her eyes, a gesture that had become her primary form of communication with me. "God, here we go again with the money. You're so heavy, Mark. You bring this weight into the room." Julian and I were having such a light, beautiful conversation, and the second you walk in, the vibe just dies. "The vibe dies because I'm tired and I'd like to have a glass of the wine I bought," I replied. Julian stood up, patting me on the shoulder with a condescending symmetry. "Take it easy, man. We'll leave you to your spreadsheets. Come on, Maya. Let's go where the energy is better." As the door clicked shut behind them, I sat in the silent kitchen and stared at the empty wine bottle. That was the first time the word heavy was used. It wouldn't be the last. Over the next 3 months, I became a ghost in my own relationship. I was the provider when the bills were due, but I was the drag when it was time for fun. Maya stopped inviting me to her work mixers, which Julian always attended. She stopped telling me about her day, saving those stories for their 5-hour-long brainstorming sessions. The disrespect wasn't a sudden explosion. It was a slow, agonizing leak. She started comparing our lives constantly. If I talked about my promotion, she'd talk about a vision board Julian helped her make. If I suggested a quiet weekend away, she'd complain that Julian thought I was stifling her growth. The breaking point didn't happen in a scream. It happened with a look in the mirror. I realized I was paying for a life I wasn't allowed to live. I was the one working the financially boring job so she could play at being a socialite with a man who looked at me like I was a service animal. I started making my own logistical plans. I didn't tell her. I didn't argue. I just started quietly untangling my life from hers. I moved my personal savings to a private account. I signed a lease on a new place. I waited for the moment when she would finally drop the mask completely. I didn't have to wait long. The Friday of the Black and Gold Gala was when the foundation finally cracked. This wasn't just any party. It was the launch of a new creative collective Julian had been consulting for. For weeks, Maya had been obsessing over it. She bought a $300 silk slip dress and a pair of heels that cost more than my monthly car payment, all on our joint credit card. I walked into the bedroom to find her standing in front of the full-length mirror, adjusting the strap of her dress. She looked breathtaking, but when she saw my reflection in the glass, her expression didn't soften. It tightened. "What are you doing, Mark?" she asked, her voice clipped. "Getting ready," I said, loosening my tie. "The gala starts at 8, right?" She stopped what she was doing and turned around. She let out a long, weary sigh. "Mark, about tonight. I think it's better if you stay home." I froze with my hand on the zipper of the suit bag. "Excuse me. Don't come to the party tonight," she said, turning back to the mirror to apply a layer of dark red lipstick. "It's a very specific crowd. Creative directors, influencers, people in the flow. Julian and I talked about it, and he doesn't like when you're around." The air in the room suddenly felt very thin. "Julian doesn't like when I'm around? In a public venue? For a party you're attending as my partner? Don't get all technical on me, Mark. This is exactly what I mean. You're already making it an argument. Julian says that when you're there, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, worrying if you're bored. You make the energy so heavy. He says he can't be his true creative self when he has to feel the weight of your corporate judgment." "My corporate judgment," I repeated, my voice dropping an octave. "You mean the judgment that pays for that dress? The judgment that's currently funding Julian's creative self because he hasn't paid for a single drink in 3 months." She slammed her lipstick down on the vanity. "God, is that all you have? Money? This is why he doesn't want you there. You're a buzzkill, Mark. You're a safety net that started to feel like a cage. Tonight is about my career. And honestly, you aren't part of that flow." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I had sacrificed my dreams for was standing there, dressed in my hard work, telling me I was a cage because a trust fund parasite found my presence inconvenient. The old me would have argued. I would have yelled. But I had already signed the lease on the new apartment. I was just waiting for the final push. "Okay," I said. She paused, her hand halfway to her earring. "Wait, what?" I said, "Okay. I won't come." She blinked, looking almost disappointed that I wasn't putting up a fight. "Oh, well, good. It's for the best, Mark. Truly. Why don't you just order a pizza? Do whatever it is you stable guys do. I'll be home late." "I'm sure you will," I said. She grabbed her clutch and walked out. The second that door closed, the weight vanished. I didn't order a pizza. I picked up my phone and sent a one-word text to a number I'd saved a week ago. "Go." 10 minutes later, a white, unmarked van pulled into the loading zone of our building. 2 professionals who specialized in discreet, rapid relocations met me at the service elevator. I had been a systems analyst for a decade. I knew how to move data without leaving a trace. Moving furniture was just a physical version of the same logic. "Everything with a blue sticker stays," I told them. "Everything else goes. I want this place looking like I was never a resident." They worked with clinical efficiency. As they dismantled my desk and packed my books, I walked through the apartment one last time. I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. I cleared out my shaving kit and my expensive cologne. I left her luxury soaps and her 10-step skincare routine untouched. By 11:30 p.m., I was standing in my new apartment across town. It was smaller, but it was high up. The walls were white, the floors were dark hardwood, and through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city lights looked like a circuit board. It was clean. It was quiet. It was mine. At 2:12 a.m., my phone began to vibrate on the glass coffee table. Maya calling. I let it ring. Then came the texts. "Maya, Mark? Where are you? The lights are off." "Maya, Mark. Where is your dresser? Why is the closet empty?" "Maya, what the hell is going on? My key didn't work on the top lock. Answer your phone." I picked up on the 5th call. "Mark." Her voice was a jagged mess of panic and fury. "Where are you? What did you do? All your stuff is gone. The apartment it's half empty." "It's not a robbery, Maya," I said, my voice calm. "It's a relocation." "Relocation? What are you talking about? I just got home. Julian is downstairs in an Uber. We were going to have an after party here. You can't just leave." "Where are you?" "I'm in my new life," I said. "I realized you were right tonight. I was a cage. I was a weight. So I did the only logical thing a systems analyst would do. I removed the redundant variable." You're being insane, she screamed. You can't just end a 4-year relationship because I told you not to come to one party. Come back right now and bring your stuff back. We can talk about this in the morning. There's nothing to talk about, Maya. You told me Julian doesn't like when I'm around. You told me I ruined the vibe. So, I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. I'm removing the heavy judgment from your world. Mark, please, she said, her voice dropping into that manipulative, breathy tone. Julian is right here. He thinks this is hilarious, but I'm actually scared. I don't have the rent for next month without you. You know that. I looked out at the city lights. I didn't feel a flicker of guilt. Tell Julian to find his creative flow and use it to pay the landlord, I said. Since he's the one who doesn't like me being around, I decided to make it permanent. You're a monster, she spat. You're doing this to punish me. No, Maya. I'm doing this to preserve me, I replied. Don't worry. Now he never has to see me again. I hung up and blocked her. The first month of my new life was defined by silence. But while my world had grown quiet, Maya's was becoming a cacophony. The logistics she so despised were finally catching up to her. Our rent was $4,000 a month. Maya's creative consulting brought in maybe $1,500. Julian, as I suspected, had the financial footprint of a ghost. They flying monkeys were the first to breach the perimeter. 2 weeks later, I received a call from her mother, Linda. Mark, Maya is in a complete state, she snapped. Do you have any idea what you've done? She's received a notice to quit from the landlord. She says you closed the account. I didn't close her account, Linda, I said. I closed my account. Maya is an adult. She wanted her freedom, and she has it. This is retaliatory and frankly, it's beneath you, Linda hissed. You were the provider. You have a moral obligation to ensure she isn't on the street. You need to come over there, pay the arrears, and sit down like a man. Linda, let me be very clear, I said. I have no obligations to a woman who told me I was a cage while wearing clothes I paid for. If she's worried about the rent, tell her to ask Julian. I hear his creative flow is very lucrative. I hung up before she could respond. A few days later, I heard from Sarah, a mutual friend. It's bad, Mark, Sarah sighed. Julian is gone. The second the notice to vacate hit the door, he suddenly realized he had a calling to do a shoot in Tulum. He left her with the utility bills and a dry cleaning tab. Maya is selling her designer bags just to buy groceries. I feel the peace of my own home, Sarah, I replied. That's all. Maya spent months telling me I was heavy. I've simply removed the problem. If she's struggling, it's because she built a life on a foundation she didn't own. That's not a tragedy. It's physics. Maya's attempts to reach me shifted from anger to a pathetic, performative desperation. Since she was blocked, she started sending professional emails to my work address. Email from Maya. Mark, I'm being evicted. I have nowhere to go. My mom won't take me in. Please. I know I said things I shouldn't have, but I was just frustrated. I miss my best friend. Just lend me $5,000 and I'll never bother you again. Please don't let me be homeless. I didn't reply. I let it sit there, a digital monument to the safety net she had so casually shredded. The final blow came when Julian's creative collective was exposed as a literal Ponzi scheme. He hadn't been a consultant. He'd been a scout for a fraud ring. Her reputation in the marketing world was incinerated overnight. 8 months later, the world looked very different. I had been promoted to Director of Systems Architecture. I was standing in the VIP lounge of the city's most prestigious tech gala to receive an Innovator of the Year award. I was finishing a conversation with a venture capitalist when I saw a woman standing near the service entrance. She was wearing a dress that looked familiar, the same silk slip dress she'd worn the night she told me not to come to the party. But it didn't fit right anymore. She looked diminished. She was working the event as a brand ambassador, handing out gift bags to the people she used to pretend were her peers. Our eyes met. She handed her tray to a coworker and walked toward me. Mark, she whispered. Hello, Maya. You look incredible. I saw your name on the program. I couldn't believe it. It's been a busy year, I said. Mark, I've tried to reach you so many times. I'm so sorry. Julian was a monster. He used me. I'm living in a boarding house, Mark. I'm working 3 jobs just to keep my head above water. She reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back. I heard things were difficult for you, I said calmly. Difficult? It's been a nightmare. I realized now that you were the only real thing in my life. You were my rock. Can we please just go somewhere and talk? I don't want your money, I swear. I just want to hear your voice. You are hearing my voice, Maya. And what it's telling you is that there is nothing left to discuss. How can you be so cold? She sobbed. For years. Does that mean nothing to you now? It meant everything to me then. I said, my voice clear and steady. But you made a very specific choice. You told me that my presence was heavy. You told me that I was a cage. I simply respected your opinion. I stepped out of the way so you could have the life you wanted. But I was wrong, she wailed. Being wrong doesn't undo the damage, I replied. You didn't just make a mistake, Maya. You spent months systematically devaluing the person who cared for you most. You lost me because you showed me exactly who you are when you think you don't need me anymore. She looked at me, her face contorting into that old mask of entitlement. So what? You're just going to stand there in your fancy suit and watch me drown? You're going to be that guy. I'm not watching you drown, Maya. I said, checking my watch. I'm not watching you at all. I haven't thought about you in months. This encounter? This is the first time I've spent more than 10 seconds considering your existence since I changed my locks. I hate you, she hissed. You're a robot. Maybe, I said with a small smile. But the robot is happy. The robot is successful. And the robot is finally free of the vibe you brought into my life. I looked past her to the stage. I have to go, Maya. They're calling my name. I'd wish you luck, but I think you've already had all the luck you're ever going to get. You just traded it all for a vibe. I walked away. I didn't look back to see her standing there in her wrinkled dress. I walked up onto that stage, the lights blinding and warm, and I took my award. As I looked out at the crowd, I realized the most satisfying part of the night wasn't the trophy in my hand. It was the fact that when I looked at the spot where Maya had been standing, she was already gone. And for the first time in my life, the silence was perfect. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.